Guerrilla Games is back after spending a near half-decade developing the PlayStation 3 shooter Killzone 2. Does it live up to the hype? Here's my review. Well, here we are. Finally playing Killzone 2 on the PS3. This game had more hype behind it than any other shooter. The infamous trailer shown at E3 several years ago is still fresh in our memories. Does this first-person shooter, a near half-decade in the making, live up to its expectations? The answer is no. But that doesn't mean it's not a decent game. But to deliver on all the expectations set for this would be next to impossible. Here's how it fared. The first thing you'll notice when you boot the game up is the visuals. You think, wow, that cutscene looks really nice, but I bet the game itself will look a lot worse. But to my surprise, many spots in the gameplay actually look better than the cutscenes. This is the prettiest looking console game out, period. And not because of textures or animations. Those things are really good, but what really drives the visuals of Killzone 2 home is the lighting. Very well defined shadows, beams of light, and bright flashes from explosions make this the closest thing to a live-action game you'll ever see. Some of the earlier levels fail to provide much visual variety, but get around a third the way through the game and you might find yourself dying because you're admiring how realistic the shadows on your gun are. It's that pretty. If you haven't played the first game, then you don't need to worry about what's going on. A single sentence sums up the story so far in the intro of the game.
The time for diplomacy has passed. The Helghast do not reason. They started this war when they invaded Vector, and it's up to us to conclude it.
Basically, the Helghast invaded a human colony in the first game, and the humans pushed them back. Now in Killzone 2, the humans, or ISA, are fighting back by invading the Helghast homeworld and trying to take down the Nazi-like enemy leader, Visari. That's as deep as the story gets. The only purpose it serves is to link the battles together. You find out more about the Helghast homeworld and how their power works, but beyond that, most of the story is just waffle. I was never made to care about the characters even in the sad situations. This game is about kicking ass and chewing bubblegum, without the gum part. The sound does its job well, but nothing really special, except for the music, which is phenomenal. Voice acting comes through as your typical soldiers with loads of gratuitous language. That can become annoying after a time. I've got no problem with language in games, but only when it's used where necessary. Throwing it in at every possible situation is just aggravating. But other than that, the voice work and writing is fair, and the gun sounds do their jobs. I should point out that the voice actor for Visari is excellent. It's a shame he didn't have too many lines.
Even now, they advance on our homeworld to seize by force what they cannot claim by right. They cannot imagine what awaits them. We will smite the invaders from our skies!
The gameplay seems like it would be solid. Mission variety is fine, there's a large selection of weapons to choose from, and when in a huge battle, enemies will aim for you and your teammates, which creates more of a sense of immersion over games like Resistance 2, where all the bad guys aim at you, no matter how many buddies are in front of you. Unfortunately, the game commits several cardinal sins of shooters. The first one is infinitely spawning enemies. This is a big no-no. Some missions present you with a long bridge or a courtyard which you have to fight your way through. Unfortunately, enemies will spawn infinitely, so you have to keep pushing forwards. Gamers like me who like to hang back and pick off the enemies one by one till it's safe to move forwards will be at a loss. I will say that the final push to Visari's palace is the only place where this works, and is quite fun as you take part in an epic tug-of-war, struggling to gain ground to the palace entrance. The other sin the game commits is its controls. The controls in this game are absolutely horrid. The aiming is mostly to blame for this. Most games you can hold down the right stick slightly to turn slowly, and all the way to turn faster. In Killzone 2, hold the stick down all the way and your crosshair will move slowly, then accelerate up to full speed. This goes against everything gamers have learned in first-person shooters. It's almost as if you have to learn how to play an FPS all over again. Not fun. You keep looking at the game and what you do and think that it would be really fun, but in practice it's really frustrating.
Sam, where the hell are you? It's getting busy here.
The other thing wrong with the controls is the configurations. For some reason, console games have yet to jump on the PC-owned bandwagon of rebinding buttons to your liking. Killzone 2 has several different preset control schemes, all of which have something inherently wrong with them. The default control scheme is actually the easiest to use. A good example of terrible control design is using the sniper rifle while under cover. To go into cover, you just have to press crouch, which is L2, when near a wall to peek over it. To peek over it, you have to lean the left stick towards the direction you want to peek, and you press the right stick to zoom in. But the sniper rifle has two zooms, and to magnify you must press up on the D-pad while in the scope. You can't use your thumb to hit the D-pad because it's busy leaning over the cover, so you have to lean your right hand all the way over to press the button. The sad part about all this is that Guerrilla Games knew about these problems when the beta started, but they made it clear that they were satisfied with the controls. I don't know how they were satisfied unless they have two thumbs on their left hand and have never played an FPS before, but they were stubborn enough to ignore these complaints. If, and that's a big if, you can get past the controls, the game is actually pretty fun. The cover system is one that I've been wishing for in an FPS for a while. I didn't like the cover system in Rainbow Six Vegas because it took you out into a third-person perspective. But in Killzone 2, it's all in first person, and works just like cover would work in real life. The game gives you a generous amount of sprint, which lessens the pain of sprinting from one piece of cover to the other, then suddenly getting tired. Yes, Call of Duty, I'm talking about you. You must play as an old fat guy most of the time in those games. Weapon variety is decent, as I said before, and most of the guns have a nice feeling of weight and recoil to them, especially the shotgun. Multiplayer is fantastic, but once again, only if you can get your head around the controls. Different classes are unlocked, each having 2 perks. You can mix and match these perks to create your ideal warrior. The cover system is removed for the sake of fairness, and there are plenty of diverse maps. The best part about multiplayer, though, is the game mode. Yeah, there's only one game mode. Sort of. However, this mode, called Warzone, combines several of your typical FPS game types. You might start out with a team deathmatch, but once your team wins, or loses, you now get the assignment to guard one of your players from assassination. There are quite a few game modes, and if you only want to play one of them, you can just set up a game with all the others turned off. But being able to switch game types mid-match without a loading screen or a lobby is great.
The mission is lost. We gave too much ground. Next time, we must triumph. Search and retrieve. Find the objectives and bring them to the designated area. You have your orders.
Killzone 2 is not bad, but it's not entirely good either. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table. You'd be hard-pressed to find an FPS that controls any worse, but the fact remains that the levels have a decent variety in them and the game is fun most of the time. The PlayStation 3 exclusive game, Killzone 2, gets a B-. A decent shooter that won't appeal to everyone, but if you're willing to take the time to get used to the controls, you'll find yourself having fun in no time.
And as our last breath tears at their lungs, as we rise again from the ruins of our cities, they will know Helgan belongs to the Hellgas.
Coming up, I explore the 3 new maps in Halo 3's Mythic Map Pack, and I review Ensemble Studios' swan song, Halo Wars. All this and more next week on the Sharp and Pointy Perspective.